As you know, you are here for the Achieving Goals with ADHD session, and I really appreciate everyone who came in tonight. I love the fact that you're all investing in yourself at the beginning of the new year, and I appreciate the fact that you're interested in achieving goals with ADHD. Now, considering the fact that you've decided to join tonight's session, I assume that means you either have ADHD, you have been experiencing some challenges, and you're wondering if it may or may not be ADHD, or you may know someone who has been displaying certain behaviors, and you're wondering if they may have ADHD, or you're looking for ways to support them. And one question that I have been asked quite a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some of you who have asked yourself this question, is it actually possible to achieve goals with ADHD? Can I be successful? Can I maintain a long relationship? Can I be successful in my education, my academic career, my professional development? And the answer is a resounding yes. You can absolutely be successful with ADHD as long as you have the support and the foundation and the strategies set to do so. So I'll just briefly tell you a little bit about myself in addition to the past introduction. My name is Jamelia Gay, and who am I? I am a woman who has ADHD. I coach people with ADHD, and I have ADHD. I am a woman with ADHD who has successfully attained a Master of Education. I'm a woman with ADHD who has been in a relationship. I'm a woman with ADHD who has gotten through college, post-secondary education, and who founded her own company. I am a walking testament that it is possible to have ADHD, to have executive function challenges, but to also have executive function skills and still be able to thrive in my daily life. I'm also a walking example that development is not linear, but it is possible, and you can absolutely be resilient. You can live a soft life. You can live a fierce life with ADHD. So we'll be addressing a few key questions tonight. And what I did is I took the liberty of creating 2 presentations for you instead of just one. So one presentation will be done in the first session, and I'll do another presentation in the second session. And that way you'll actually be walking away with 2 different ADHD presentations at the end of the night. So don't worry about what you may not get in the second session by being directly in the room. You're actually going to get the 2 recordings after that. So in tonight's first session, we're going to be doing a bit of a case study. There were some of you who sent your questions ahead of time, and what I did was worked your questions into the presentation so that you can have a more direct and real-life example to answer, and then you'll also have a bit more theory in the next presentation. So we're going to be talking or asking, what is the first step in setting an achievable goal? What is a real-life example of applying SMART goals? And then what are the success strategies to achieve my goals? Okay, so we're going to get to the first question. What is the first step in setting an achievable goal? And the very first step is getting clear on the goal that you want to achieve. It's going to be really difficult to achieve goals if you're uncertain about what you're striving for. What are the things that you want to master? What are the things that you want to do? And then once you're clear on that, it's about making sure that we can break those steps down so that you can make it more manageable and less overwhelming for you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 4 P's of goal setting. We're going to look at passion, prioritize, purpose, and positive. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to write down your passions. So you'll get a pen and paper. If you are more into technology, then you can do that on your computer, whether it is in your Google Docs, etc. But you want to write down all the things that you're passionate about. And if you do have ADHD, individuals with ADHD tend to have a lot of passions, a lot of interests, a lot of things that appeal to you. So it can become very overwhelming because there are so many passion projects that you want to get to. And by the time you write everything down, it's like there's so much that I don't know where to get started, which one to choose first. I have no idea how to prioritize. And then you may find yourself trying to do none instead of trying to do at least one of them because of all the things that are in your head that want to come out. So you can prioritize your passion, and it doesn't mean that you have to let go of your other goals or your other passions, but what you can do is use your other passions to enhance your practice, your project, or your goal. So I will give you an example shortly. Okay, so I'm going to use myself as the first example. I am very passionate about empowering others. I'm very passionate about coaching adults with ADHD or adults who have executive function challenges. I'm also going to put in there that I'm also really passionate about coaching women in particular because I relate closely to you because I am a woman. And even though I'm passionate about coaching adults, I have a background many years in early years. So I always want to still include work with children. And I'm also very faith-based. So I'm passionate about motivating others and empowering others from a faith-based lens. Now, with all these values, systems, and passions, it makes it really difficult, or it has made it really difficult for me to choose what I want to focus on. So I'll give you an example of empowerment. Let's say I decide to prioritize empowering others. So I decide to be an empowerment coach, or I have an empowerment workshop. What I can do is combine my passion to empower others and develop ADHD skills in adults through a one-day workshop. And if I want, I could connect that to something that's faith-based. So let's say I host a one-day workshop. It's about empowering others, but I decide to bring in a praise and worship session for empowerment, for motivation, for furthering faith, for example. And I also, talk about, God decided to rest on the seventh day. So how are you prioritizing rest as an entrepreneur with ADHD? And then from that, I already have a podcast, an IG reel, an Instagram live, and different things that I can branch off. So my priority would be the root or the trunk. And then I have different branches that I can use to complement what my main focus is. Let's say I decided to focus on coaching adults, but as I said, it's really hard for me to avoid the early years. So within my coaching sessions, I can also host 1 or 2 workshops, for example, on supporting your child with ADHD transitioning from vacation to school, or 5 steps to regulate your emotions as a parent with ADHD. And this way I'm prioritizing, but as I mentioned before, I'm using my other passions and my other skills to boost the goal that I've chosen to prioritize. So when you have an ADHD brain, you don't have to let go of your passions or let go of your goals. And one thing that makes you really unique is sometimes you may have more goals than others because of how your brain works, because of how creative and passionate that you are. So it's about learning to leverage one to support the other, or prioritize one and then know when you can move on. And then we move on to purpose. So what's the reason for creating and selecting this particular goal? What is your why? And when you decide that, you want to watch your words. So when you have an ADHD brain, you tend to speak in negatives. I'm definitely someone who has in the past gone to, I'm not good enough, or, I can never do this. Or if I decide on something that I want to work on, I do it with a deficit mindset. So I do it because the room is too dirty or something is not the way I want it to be. And that can actually demotivate you and have an adverse effect as opposed to motivating you. So you want to watch your words. Instead of, I need to clean because I'm a mess and my house is filthy, you can try, I'm going to declutter my bedroom so I can enjoy the clarity and lightness that it brings. So you're just reframing your words, you're reframing your mindset. You still have the same goal, you're still doing the same thing, but you're speaking to yourself in a more motivating way, which encourages you to actually get the task done. So reality and positivity don't have to be mutually exclusive. You're not being falsely positive. We're still dealing with the reality that I have a room that needs to be cleared out. It needs to be decluttered, but what is my mentality around it? So let's look at What is a real life example of applying SMART goals? So, as I mentioned before, you have a goal, but you have a mountain of a goal that makes it so overwhelming for you because of your big ambitions that it's hard for you to decide, how am I going to tackle this? How am I going to accomplish this and get it done? So I'm going to use a case study for you just to get started. Okay, I want to clean my house but don't know where to start. I've been feeling really overwhelmed. I told myself I'd do all the cleaning 2 Saturdays ago, but ended up staying in bed watching Netflix instead. The house still isn't clean. What do I do? Can anyone relate? If you can relate, put a 1 in the chat. Okay. All right, so I see yes all the time. There you go. So I'm definitely someone who has been guilty of this myself. I had the habit in the past of getting very overwhelmed when I had something to do. I would see a huge pile of laundry and because I see how big it is, I just don't bother to start it. Or because I have laundry and dishes to do, I end up in a bit of a analysis paralysis because I just don't know where to get started. And then I become very overwhelmed, very anxious. So I had to learn steps to get over that, to work on it, and to break my big mammoth of a goal into smaller steps. Okay, so one thing that you may have seen as well is that because of the fact that this individual became overwhelmed, it took about 2 weeks and nothing got done. And when you have ADHD, you tend to operate with an all or nothing mentality. And because of that, if you can't do the whole thing, all of something, then you do absolutely nothing. If it's taking too long or it's too hard for you to figure out what your first step should be, you tend to do nothing at all or do something else instead. And this is something that I've shared with a client before. When you think you're doing nothing, what you're actually doing is choosing something else. So you may not tackle the laundry, but it's because you're choosing your mental health instead. So it's never about doing nothing, but it's learning about tackling that task in a very strategic way, one step at a time. So 4 things to think of or to note. You don't have to do it all in one day. The parts are as important as the whole. So yes, you want to get this one goal done or this one task complete, but you don't have to do everything in one day. I know some of us may pick a Saturday or a Sunday, for example, because we work during the week. Whether you have kids, you may be in school, whatever the case may be, you want to try to get everything done in one day to maximize the time that you have, and I get it. However, when you do that and you become overwhelmed and 2 weeks pass, you got nothing done and you still have that thing to accomplish. But when you do a little at a time and you create SMART goals to tackle smaller tasks within that big task, you're going to get it done bit by bit, and the same 2 weeks have passed, the time will pass anyway. So think of the phrase biting off more than you could chew. It's not because you can't manage the whole meal or you're not capable of it, but it's because you're trying to fit everything in at the same time. So pace yourself. You want to make sure that you break your task into bite-sized pieces, and you're still going to be able to get that whole meal done anyway. Let go of the all or nothing mindset and then turn your vague wants into SMART goals. So for example, the goal is I want to clean my home, but that can be very vague. What part of your home do you want to clean? When do you want to get it cleaned by? Is there a room that is higher priority over another? So you want to make sure that you're setting goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So we'll start with specific, and instead of just I want to clean my home, try I want to declutter the home office desk. So now you've picked a specific room and a specific part of that room that you want to get started with. And this also helps you to praise and reward yourself while you accomplish each aspect of that goal, as opposed to waiting until you're done the whole thing to give yourself recognition. Then you want to reduce the items on the desk by 50%. So how much do you want to get clear in a specific amount of time? Allocate 30 minutes each day to focus on the desk. Improve productivity and create a more organized workspace. So now you know that this is relevant to you and it's relevant to what you need to feel clear, to feel less anxious on a daily basis. And then you want to make it time bound. So you want to complete the task within the next 2 weeks. And this can be applied to any of your goals. It doesn't have to be related to home. It can also work if you have goals for your business, goals for the office, goals for helping your child with homework. So you can definitely apply SMART goals to anything that you are coming across or any task that you want to accomplish. So the next case study question. And if you have any questions so far, feel free to drop it in the chat or you can write it down until the end. I've been conditioned to multitask in the corporate world for 30 years. And now, changing to a career that is all about the focus, I find it difficult to focus on the business side of my private practice. Instead, I default to multitasking to the point of being overwhelmed. I know it may not be ADHD, but I still need help. What can I do? Again, drop a 1 in the chat if this is something that you can relate to. Where are my multitaskers in the room? And if you do multitask, is there anyone that gets really overwhelmed by it? Again, that's something that I can definitely relate to. Okay, I see some ones. All right, so at the end of this individual's question, when they sent it in, they said, I know it may not be ADHD, but I still need help. And I'm really, really happy that they mentioned that because you don't have to have ADHD to require support. And you don't have to have ADHD to need to develop your executive function skills. Your executive function skills are something that we all need on a daily basis to thrive in our job, in our homes, in our relationships, in parenthood. So it's something that you can still get support in with or without a diagnosis. I see, okay, Sabrina, I see 4 1s. Sabrina, you sound like me. All right, so what can I do? The first thing that I'll say that you can do is learn to water your gifts. And something that we undervalue when you have ADHD or when you have your executive function skills is not give yourself enough credit for the things that you're good at. Yes, you have challenges and we're not taking away from that, but you also have a certain amount of skills that you can use to help bring your challenges up or to help support your challenges. So it's like a pulley that's helping to bring you forward in the areas that you need support with. So we're going to look at a few executive function skills affected by ADHD in adults. And I'm going to go more in depth with that in the next session. And it's something that you'll get after. So you'll see exactly what some of those executive function skills are, but they include your working memory, flexibility, time management. So with regards to multitasking, it may seem like a word that's very taboo and it's frequently been used in a negative way when it comes to individuals with ADHD. You know, you may have been told that you're trying to do too much at the same time, or, you know, you're not able to focus on one thing. Focus is a huge part of ADHD because the common misconception is that people with ADHD can't focus, and that's just not true. You're focusing on this presentation right now and you're still here. So it's not that you can't focus, it's that there is a dysregulation in your focus and you tend to want to pay more attention to the things that you're interested in. And that's completely normal and it's a very human concept. So it's about, again, transforming your mindset from the negative to the positive. So instead of looking at multitasking as something that is negative for you, look at multitasking as something that you can use as a strength. So the reality is that many individuals with ADHD thrive and are actually more productive when they're doing more things than once. Because sometimes your brain needs that extra stimulation to get things done. So for example, when I grew up and I was studying, I always needed to sing while I was getting my work done. And it helped me focus, it helped me to block out the noise, and it helped me to get that task that I really needed to get done accomplished. So instead of fighting your natural inclinations and fighting your skills, what you want to try to do is, instead of multitasking between different projects, especially if you are an entrepreneur, for example, what I would encourage is to multitask within that one project, multitask within your goal. So you can craft a well-organized to-do list and you can switch between the tasks that you need to accomplish throughout the day. So you're not going to get bored and prolong what you're working on at the time, but you can time block and set a schedule for how long you're going to spend on one task and then move on to another so that you can still switch between what you need to do. And again, you have your bite-sized pieces that you're going to be able to accomplish to make up the whole. So prioritize your task with an Eisenhower matrix, and that is a time management matrix that helps you to sort your urgent and your important tasks. So it helps you divide tasks into 4 categories: either the task that you're going to do first, the task that you'll schedule for later, the task that you'll delegate, or the task that you'll completely delete because it's not relevant to what you want to accomplish for that day. And you can use apps like Google Calendar to help you to practice time blocking, again, so you can track how long you're spending on an activity before moving forward. And before we end off, we'll look at some of the success strategies to achieve your goals that we've already covered, but just to do a summary. Okay, so you want to structure your environment in a way that is conducive to you and what works best for you. So is there a specific room that helps you to focus, that helps to block out the noise? Do you need to declutter your environment to be able to focus, to feel that clarity? Do you need time management techniques? So do you need to set your alarms to remind yourself to eat? Do you need to prioritize and engage in goal setting, like those SMART goals that we looked at? Or do you need to seek support from a coach like myself who can help you develop your executive function skills and then learn how to leverage those skills to bring up and boost your challenges? Okay, and I see yet a comment in the chat. Yes, I'm very knowledgeable, but having a hard time with procrastination. Absolutely. So procrastination is definitely something that can be very difficult for us. It's something I'll try to touch on in the next workshop just so you can see it in the recording. But it's, again, learning how to leverage your time management, and it's something that we'll talk about. And Sabrina, reach out to me directly and I could give you some more skills or some strategies for procrastination, because I know we don't have a lot of time to cover it and there's so much to cover when it comes to ADHD. And before we go, I just wanted to share with you a few things. So the first thing is you can book a strategy session at 50% off. So this is a discount that I am providing to you. So you can either scan the code, and I'll also put the information in the chat. And I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. You're welcome, Sabrina. Okay, and I'm also going to gift you all with a self-reflection guide to identify burnout. So again, you can scan the code and I will put that in the chat as well. Perfect. And if anyone has any feedback, any questions, anything that you would like us to touch on directly, because again, there's only so much we can cover in 25 minutes, then please feel free to complete this form and then reach out to me directly and we can have a conversation and continue connecting. Okay, so I see I have an issue with confidence and acceptance. That is a huge one. And developing your confidence as an adult with ADHD is something we're actually going to talk about in the next session as well. So you'll see that in the recording, Shaniqua. It's definitely something that is overlooked, undervalued. But we can have, again, this negative mindset and talk down to ourselves so much because of the big emotions that we have and because of the things that we've internalized when it comes to people with neurodiversities. But again, there are so many things that you can accomplish, and it's about learning to identify your skills, learning to develop them and accept that you are actually good at things, and then walk unapologetically moving forward. And there are strategies that we can put in place to help you develop that as well. It's not something that you have to do alone, and it's definitely something that I can help you with. Okay. All right, I see that we have to go back to the room shortly, so I want to thank everyone for joining. Please feel free to check the recording, and we'll be talking a bit more in the next session, so you'll get that too. Okay, thank you everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing you for the rest of tonight's presentation.